we're going to do something a little different. I'm actually going to do a response video for a book review, I guess you could call it a book review, of a book we're all probably familiar with, Going Home by Angry American. Actually, so full disclosure, right? I'm in one of the Angry American's Facebook groups. I've met the author. We communicate back and forth. I like to say we're friends. So I might be a little biased, okay? But we don't typically do this. We've done this before, reviewing or responding to other people's videos. But I don't know. I just watched the video and I had some opinion. So what we're gonna do for this is I'm going to watch the video on the computer. I'm not gonna tell you guys who it is or directly name them or anything like that. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna watch it. And I'll pause and comment on areas I want to comment. I actually, because obviously I've already watched it, I've got notes and whatnot. But, and I'll just splice together my comments, and it should be pretty interesting. He makes some good points. He makes some really bad points, I think. Some of his criticisms of the prepping community in general, I think, are fair. But, you'll see.
Number 3 is practice with your gear. Actually get out and actually test it. Obviously, you ain't got to walk 250 miles home, but if you did a Titan 10-mile challenge, you would know, okay, I can survive without this, or, maybe I want to add up on this. Obviously, he hasn't done that. Go up here to the search bar and type in bug out loadouts, and you will find packs that are 70, 80, 90 pounds. And there's a ton of people out here who say, I can rough with it.
Alright, so his initial criticism of people's bug out packs and sizes being too heavy, too unrealistic, and the combination of people not training, that's pretty fair.
Put it on my back and march on down the highway.
Success takes sacrifice. You'll need to come in early.
From morning surfing.
Work through lunch.
Picked from...
Have you ever done it? Have you ever tried it? No. We on this channel, we pride ourselves of being one of the only channels that can say, yes, we have, this is what we've learned, and this is the changes that we've made. I said that Morgan had a get home bag. When I think get home bag, I think, maybe a little 2-day pack. No. We're talking like a massive, almost 80-liter inch bag. The first thing he does whenever he realizes, oh crap, my car's not starting, this is an event, it's go time, is he goes through his bag. He goes through and makes sure that he has everything that he needs. But on top of that, he goes through his vehicle. He's got some sort of vehicle survival kit, and he goes in and starts pulling things out of his kit and putting them into his bag. Adding more weight, adding pounds. That's all he's doing. Some of the stuff, yeah, it comes in handy, but other things, it's just extra weight that he never used. If you hiked 10 miles with your pack, you would not have an 80-pound pack. I know.
Alright, so for one, the distance and the weight is doable if you train. And the other thing too is, I'm looking at my notes, so my 72-hour bag is 50-liter bag, 45 pounds, and that's half of the weight is our main packs in training in the Marine Corps, right? So you were regularly carrying 80, 90, 100 pounds, and we'd be going, 10, 20, 30, 40K ruck marches just for training. You can go, so that distance and weight is doable if you train. If you learn how to pace yourself, it's doable. Typically we'll go 50 minutes on, 10 minutes rest. I shoot for 10 miles a day. Definitely go further than that. But, he talks about actually going out and training. He's done a 10-miler, and he knows that you don't need X, Y, and Z. It reminds me of criticism I heard once. It was by some guy selling body armor, and he was saying that, he was somewhat steel versus ceramics. And I'm not here to discuss the difference in armor, but his comment about weight, that it's unrealistic to expect somebody to carry 20 pounds of armor for more than an hour. We carried way more than that in Marine Corps. I mean, our armor and plate Everything weighed more than that, and we're wearing it for a hell of a lot longer than 1 hour. So, that guy, as far as the armor guy, his criticism just showed how little experience he had actually using this stuff in real life. And with this guy, he says he goes out there and trains, which is good. It's more than a lot of people, but he hasn't been. I hate to say it, but he hasn't been at that next level where it's good. You've done 10, 20-mile rucks with your weight. Reality is you can do more. Does it suck? Absolutely. Do I want more weight? No. My pack weighs 45 pounds. I'm happy with that. But it's doable, and you can make an argument that in Morgan's situation, he's starting out. He doesn't know what he's going to need, because this guy here makes a comment that, well, a lot of the stuff he didn't need. You don't know what you're going to need. You overload yourself. You can pitch some of this gear as you go. Once you leave it behind, you're not going back to get it. So
it sucks. So my pack is the minimalist it can get while keeping me warm, keeping me dry, keeping me safe. That way, when I do need to add extra things for my vehicle or extra,
just because he wouldn't do it, I don't think that's a fair criticism to say that Morgan couldn't have or was unrealistic. Just because this individual wouldn't have gone that route, that's fine.
For armament or whatever, it's not an 80-pound pack. This man, Morgan, obviously has never done ruck marches with his back. One of the first things he says when he puts it on is, "Oh crap, this thing's heavy. It's going to kill me." Yeah, no kidding. You're walking around with a friggin' turtle shell on your back.
So, if you've never been in the military and you've never seen any of the military, yeah, we've done. It's doable, and yeah, sometimes you're walking around with a giant turtle shell on your back, and it sucks. And just because he makes that comment doesn't mean he, because we can extrapolate. You could make the other argument. Obviously, he has trained with it because he makes the journey. But anyway, I think his criticism of the weight is a little extreme. People do it all the time in the military. It's totally doable.
Number 5. This one's going to be controversial. I hear a lot about ham radio. Ham radio, you need your ham license. You need ham radio. Ham. Ham radio might not be the best option. He meets these military, paramilitary folks. They're trying to get across the lake. They said, "Hey, we got guys on the other side of the lake. They'll come pick us up. It'll cut your journey in half." They get on that ham radio and they say, "Hey, this is us. We're here. Come pick us up." Next thing you know, a helicopter's landed on that location. The helicopter takes out their friends in the boat and then turns its guns towards Morgan and them that are sitting on the beach. Why? Because a ham radio can be tracked. Ham radios are not as good as people think. Can you reach distances from here to California? Absolutely. They rely on the repeater towers. If backup power...
Alright, so he's criticizing ham radios. All right, first off, he says they require repeaters. Yes and no, right? He first mentions you could talk from one end of the country to the other, but you need repeaters. No, if you have HF radio, you don't need repeaters. That's the whole point of HF. Okay. Yeah, you're still gonna need power, but at least with the HF system, you can run it off of solar. And remember too. Now, obviously, for this particular scenario. In the book, it's EMP. So, but for us preppers in general, there's other scenarios out there. A lot of scenarios don't involve total grid failure. But in keeping with the book, he criticizes ham in general. He departs from the book for a second and talks about ham in general. So you don't need repeaters with HF. You do need your license, because with HF you need to practice and understand how to use the antennas in different wavelengths and how to manipulate those signals. And then, UHF and VHF has its own uses. He talks about the ham being tracked. Yeah, it can be tracked. Then you have to ask, is it going to be tracked? I think that's, for the most part, it's not something I would worry about. Most people are not doing things that are high enough on the radar where they're worrying about the radio signals being tracked. If you are, and you see this in the book that Sarge lays out this comms plan, there's ways to mitigate that. It's not a reason to ignore ham.
Towers does not work. The repeater towers don't work. Now you have nothing more than an overpriced walkie-talkie. In this book, the backup power stations did work. They could keep their distances, right? They could get that 50-mile distance on a ham radio. But ham radios got tracked. And they can be tracked with very minimal effort. After Morgan gets shot, he meets Sarge. Sarge says, all right, hey, listen, here's your ham radio. You're going to check in with me every day. Multiple times throughout the check-ins, they say, hey, I'm at location X. Okay, cool. Well, then someone else will pop online. This is a private network. You will get off the line, or we will come find you. Like I said, the helicopter takes out Morgan's new friends and almost takes out Morgan. The book almost ended with him getting taken out by a freaking helicopter because he used a ham radio. Am I saying that a walkie-talkie might be your better option? In some cases, yeah.
He doesn't actually understand the difference between an FRS radio, which is walkie-talkie, and a ham radio. Let's say like a Baofeng, right? UV5R. FRS operates on a certain set of frequencies, and they're limited to 2 watts. They used to be limited to half a watt. I can take my Baofeng, which is a ham radio. First, I can use different antennas, so I can actually reduce my range by using a worse antenna. I can operate in different frequencies, and then I can also just limit my power output. I can go in the settings and limit it instead of 8 to 5, because now they have 8-watt models and maybe even 10-watt models. But I can reduce that to 5 watts. I can reduce it to 4. I can reduce it. I think you can reduce those down to half a watt. So I can artificially, because really the argument he's making is that the limited range of the FRS radios will make them harder to track. I can do the same thing with a ham radio. With a handheld UV5R, I can do the exact same thing, but I still maintain the capability to increase my power output, to change out an antenna, all that kind of stuff. Again, that just the comment, the way he laid out that argument, and then his comment he makes about his criticism about ham radio, and then saying that a walkie-talkie might be better. No, you don't actually understand what's going on with ham radio.
This book was also prepper fiction. The fact that this book didn't contain Morgan bitching and griping all the time annoyed me. You're a middle-aged man who's carrying 80 plus pounds, who got shot in the head, but yet never once complained.
Alright, so his next criticism is that Morgan doesn't complain enough and whine enough. And so in my notes I have, because he says, Morgan's not bitching enough about, about the whole journey. And so in my notes I says, bitching doesn't further the story. I mean, so this is this book that you're reading. Writing in the character constantly complaining about everything would get annoying, and it doesn't further the story. And then I have also, because he mentions basically that Morgan's a middle-aged man, and he's going to be complaining all the time, and 80 pounds, and he got shot in the head. And, again, complaining doesn't further the story. Also, maybe Morgan's, and I wrote down different language, but maybe he's not a wuss. Maybe he's actually not mentally weak, and he's able to cope with these, Now, sure, most of us, complaining is normal. And, the military, everyone's going to complain about something, You're going to complain a little bit, but he's not mentally weak. And it's just, it's funny to me that that's what stuck out to him, that he would be complaining more. It's not good for the story, and, he criticizes Morgan for being a middle-aged man. Well, then work out. If Morgan, which we can conclude kind of by reading the book, he must have been in some kind of shape. But if he's a middle-aged man, go work out, for one. And if he was in shape and had trained with his pack, then he should be able to deal with the physical rigors of the journey he made. And yeah, maybe he just sucked it up and didn't complain about every little thing. I mean, the fact that to him, to the guy making this video, that is foreign enough to where that stuck out in his mind while reading the book and annoyed him, to me tells a lot about him and the people he's around. At a certain point, you get in a situation, you just got to stop complaining and deal with it. And people like that are able to pull off journeys like you see in the book, and people who can't deal with it are not able to. So I think the whole criticism is pretty stupid, to be honest. And I'm not trying not to be that harsh, especially when I'm making videos and putting it out there, But just, I don't know, that really, him getting irked by that irked me. I'll just say that.
This was a hero fantasy book. That's all it was. Morgan goes in and Morgan saves the day 3, 4, 5 times. At one point in the book, he follows some local town hicks to a woman's house where they're fixing to go in and they're fixing to rape her. And Morgan goes in, boom, 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 starts shooting at them. Boom, kills all the bad guys. You know, they give him a big hooray parade. The old lady and the man next door, they feed him for 2 days, and then, yay, you're the hero, high five. Morgan's walking down the street.
See, it's funny that he complains about that too, because he talks about where he rescues that woman, and after that he rests for 2 days, as you know, as they feed him and he rests. So he complains about Morgan not complaining enough about the journey and the blisters, but you see throughout the trip, Morgan takes these breaks, you know, which would greatly help your body recover, especially you're being fed and you're sleeping and you're resting. But yeah, you know, fiction is fiction. This is a fictional book, and if the main character died in the first engagement, it wouldn't be much of a story. And this is the reality of any fictional story. You know, people talk about plot armor. Yeah, it's fiction. That's the whole point. The main character is going to make it through, otherwise there is no story. So to a certain level, that would be like him complaining that, well, the story is stupid, because in reality, I don't think anyone would ever actually pull off an EMP. Well, it's fiction around an EMP event. It's the same thing with this. And then he talks about some of, you know, him killing those guys that are about to rape the woman in the house. Listen, I remember that scene. Minimal training goes a long way, and it's just like, you know, and I'll probably put up some pictures and videos. You'll see from our channel, we actually go out there and do the things, you know. So I'm out there hiking, I'm out there using my pack. You know, I have training from the Marine Corps. I continue to get tactical training. You know, I do mixed martial arts and jiu-jitsu, and I'm doing all these physical things, but minimal training goes a long way. When you understand the fundamentals of any one of those pursuits, man, you are leagues above an untrained individual. And so if we assume that Morgan, being a prepper, had gotten some tactical training, just some basic fundamental things, and he was competent, and, you know, I remember that part of the story, these were like hillbillies. They were not trained, and they were, you know, that part of the story is not unrealistic. You have an individual that they did not expect that comes in with aggression and some basic training. I didn't see anything wrong with that.
I'm going to shoot you in the head. Pow, 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 pow. Like, we're out in the Wild West.
And then with the, was it Silver Dollar, or what are those two guys that he shot in the street? You guys know what I'm talking about. Moneybags and Silver Dollar, Gold Teeth, something like that. But he's talking about that scene where, you know, he shoots him down. Again, if you have some basic training and you have a decent draw and you train, you're going to outperform these other people. And again, fiction is fiction. Of course he's going to win these encounters. Like, that is not, and you see, it's not like he's invincible. Throughout the whole story, you see that Morgan deals with many issues, and he doesn't always win, so to speak. But yeah, his criticism about that, just, I think it's pretty silly. This is a book. It is a fictional book. I don't know what we expect. And I didn't find any of those particular scenes outlandish or crazy. I thought, man, they're within the realm of possibility, I think.
I get it. It is a world without law. I understand. It played too much on the fiction part. It doesn't say his background. It doesn't say he was seer. It doesn't say he was a ranger. It just says he's a middle-aged guy, and I think he was working on computers.
Again, it tells me that this individual he's doing some things, because he's talking about he goes on these 10-mile rucks with his get-home bag, but he's just not, he's early in his journey, and he's not at that next level yet. Because in my experience, you know, the more you do, the more you start to realize that, yeah, you know, once you get the fundamentals, the small things go a long way. Yeah. So, watching this, you know, so my last note here is, it says the kid needs to work out and train more. Yeah, he's doing some stuff. He needs to train more. He's just not exposed enough to this. He needs to work out and train more. His idea of you know, what's possible and what's not possible, and what's unrealistic and what's realistic. he just hasn't done enough. You need to go train more. You know, get some more training. Get basic proficiency in tactics and firearms, and you know, go ruck more. Do longer distance stuff. Go surround yourself with more people that have also done more things. It's like he elevates this group of people that can do kind of what Morgan did, puts them on too high a pedestal, I think, and doesn't realize how attainable that level of performance is, or that ability to do those things. And a lot of it's up here, right? It's once you get to a point, your mentality and your ability to mentally deal with these different things is what's going to set you apart. And you look at, he talks about SEER and Special Forces, and you look at any of these special operations groups, that's what sets them apart. Is going to be the mindset, mental, right? That's what allows the SEALs and Rangers and or Special Operations and Delta and all these other groups and Marine Raiders and to train at a higher level and do all these things. And so for him, just like especially his comment about the complaining, you need to stop complaining so much if that's your big takeaway. Stop complaining every time something gets hard. You know, once you realize something's going to be hard, you just deal with it and you figure it out. It just, yeah. So those are kind of my thoughts on that. You know, he's got some good points about people not training enough, but he's doing some training. He needs to train more, I think. He doesn't train enough either. So, again, we're talking about the book Going Home by A. American. It's a good book. It's fiction, obviously, so don't take it as a necessarily as a word for word manual on how to deal with everything. It is fiction, and I think it's pretty well written. So leave your comments below. Let me know what you thought about some of my comments, and stay safe, stay prepared.